How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the Splatter Review episode. Once again with Paul. We are here to talk about a B horror director that nobody took seriously for his time, from the 1960s, for the 70s B horror movie, because Horatio Gordon. A lot of people have never heard of him, even people from the modern times today or even back then never heard of Horatio Gordon. So that's why we're going to talk about him, because me and him are big fans of Horatio Gordon Lewis. And preview to talk about the magazine, which talks about Blood Feast 2, and the B guide that helps talk about Horatio Gordon film that you pick up. Alright, the first horror movie from 1962, Blood Feast. Horatio Gordon was in between Alfred Hitchcock and George A. Romero, and Hitchcock did Psycho and Birds, and George A. Romero did the original Black and White Night of the Living Dead movie. Blood Feast is about an ancient Egyptian cook who buys this ancient Egyptian who goes obsessed and evil and cuts up beautiful young girls, takes their body parts. It shows at the beginning where this young, single, beautiful girl goes into her bathroom, and then this killer comes up and kills her. You see, he cuts off this leg, and then there's these two cops that investigate. They said there hasn't been a bad killer since Jack the Ripper. And then he cooks them and eats them. And it's about these parents who are having a wedding celebration for their daughter's birthday, and all her friends end up getting cut up and killed and eaten, and then they find out what they're going to be eating at the wedding cake: human body parts. And the girl that's getting married is one of the cops who's doing the investigation of the scene. And what did you think of Blood Feast, Paul?
That was pretty brutal, especially at the very end, because when
he gets crushed by the truck when the cop finds out it was him. His wife, he tries to put her on the table, hypnotize her so he can cut up and kill her. The mother walks in, flips out, he runs off, and then the cops are getting him, and the daughter just finds out it's him, killed all her friends. She can't stop crying and screaming and stuff, and he runs in his truck, and then it crushes him, and then the cops stand there relieved, talking like the whole thing was just a relief that he deserved to die and stuff, which was kind of brutal. You kind of felt sorry for the killer too. This was another slasher element too, which you see body limbs. Actually, the scene I liked where this couple's on the beach that I remember, and this girl's saying, this maniac's running around, and this guy's saying, "Oh, come on, this killer ain't gonna kill you, no one's gonna hurt me." And then he hits him over the head with a rock, and then she takes out all these arms and limbs and stuff like that, and then you see all this blood and this snake crawling around too. And then after the cops find out her brain, her whole head is all smashed, the guy starts screaming and crying like a girl, going and stuff like that, and it's kind of hilarious. And you never forget a scream if you saw Blood Feast 2. Blood Feast in color from 1962. Imagine the people that did see that movie. That was the second offensive thing since the 1950s Volta Horror, E.C.'s Tales from the Crypt comic books, to ever come a picture from like that from back at its time. Did you ever used to own this one on Blood Feast, Paul?
Yeah, Blood Feast, yeah. It was Blood Feast, Color Me Blood Red, and
yeah. Actually, the second one
and the Gargoyle Girls
is Color Me in Blood Red, made from 1964, right after he did Blood Feast. It's about an artist who gets so frustrated, who's very bitter about his artwork, who lives with his wife. They always fight a lot, and he always gets angry, and his art just is not selling. So one day he gets into a fight with his wife, pokes her finger with a needle, colors his blood, puts the art picture in the blood, and gets fascinated. He ends up killing her, and he ends up painting all this stuff, all gore and blood, and rips us apart and stuff like that. And
he set it on fire too, right? I remember you were saying.
Yes.
Right.
Actually, that was the beginning when he sets the art picture on fire, and then you see all this blood coming down. Coloring Blood Red, where these young teenagers play out on the beach, and this one girl, and he wants this girl to stay still, and he ends up finding the body tied up, all cut open and stuff. Which this one comes with a magazine which you can see these kids at the beach has that same kind of corniness, and this one's kind of a little bit slow. The features are, these movies are released by Something Weird Video. They also released the first Basket Case horror movie from 1980. The actress that comes with digital and remastered auto commentary by director Horace Boone Lewis, and original theatrical trailer, rare outtakes, gallery explorers, and they all have these warnings on it. Warning: the program contains violence, graphic violence. Then the next one they did, 2000 Maniacs, which has the original cover from this side of the DVD edition. It's about a hitchhiker that finds this nice, attractive lady who was actually off from the Playboy magazines. The young girl that stars in it, we find out. And they travel to this town, and the town welcomes them and all these other couples. There's 6 people that get killed, and they end up tricking them and killing them and tearing them apart. The one scene, they tie this girl up in a rope, and they dump this big rock, and then you see it smashing, but then you only see the separate arms. Really low budget, but back for its time, it was something. And then this other scene where they tie this young guy up, these girls, these rednecks, tease him, and then they tie him up off his hands, and then the horses both go and they split into 2 parts and stuff. Back then, they probably just bought a lot of the fake blood gap stuff. How would you do it? But now I look at it, it looks so low budget. Something weird. They actually did a remake to 2000 Maniacs in the year 2006. Eli Roth, who did Hostel 1 and 2 and Cabin Fever, was the producer of that movie. The remake, 2000 Maniacs, starring Robert Englund, who plays Freddy, and a bunch of other horror movies. And the remake was more technical, a lot more killing, a lot more backfire ending. Wasn't as good as the original. It just, I thought it had a horrible character plot, in my opinion. It was not the same. Now the original, they go to the sheriff, this one right here, 2000 Maniacs, and the sheriff starts to investigate this crime. The town never existed. It was something like the Twilight Zone. So near the end they take off, they escape from them, they trick this redneck kid to get away and stuff, saying they're giving candy, and he gets away. And then at the end you hear them playing the guitar, so they come out every once a year. So at the beginning when they're driving, they have this guy put a sign saying which direction to town to lure people into it. So that was okay, Herschel Gordon. Then the greatest one, Wizard of Gore from 1971's Herschel Gordon, The Wizard of Gore, which is about the magician that tricks people into cutting up young girls, but for example, at the beginning shows his head cut off, which looks kind of rubberish back then, with this knife, puts his head through the wood, and then cuts his head right off. And this one scene, which is brutal, he tells these girls to come up, and then saws the girl in half. That's the first victim, I think. Saws the girl in half, and then all his organs come out. People are convinced it looks so real, and then this girl wake up like she's fine, and she goes to this restaurant, and then she ends up dead with all the blood coming out.
Yeah, basically what I found towards this movie that I remember extensively was whatever the magician did on stage with someone from the audience coming up, he would show it, and then they'd walk away like nothing happened. Like Brent was saying, how when he cut up them in half, the girl in half, so she walked away and everything. But later that evening, whoever actually performed on whoever that came up, they would be severed from that. So they found her body in half.
Yeah.
Right.
And the character plot is this reporter who is with this guy who doesn't believe in it, he doesn't like magicians, but she ends up getting obsessed with this guy, and every girl that's on that stage ends up dead, and that leaves the investigation. He's trying to take over the whole town, especially that scene where this big metal machine was going right to this girl was laying back on his table, right to the girl's machine. Wait for her stomach just going up and down, or organs and guts are coming out, and they would find them dead. And this one scene, everybody's hands would start to bleed.